What I'm going to tell you in this video is something you're not really supposed to hear, because a lot of things function a lot more smoothly if this information is not widely known. You've been lied to about value and specifically what women perceive as value. And the thing is, this lie is not new. It's all over social media and that's where it's being propagated now. But this is the same lie I was told growing up in the 1990s, and it's what made me want to pursue wealth and status and fame and these other things with an idea that they would help me get women. I believed that was the only way. And you see it nowadays all over the place. It's all LMS, looks, money, status, looks, money, status. Well, I want to talk to you about what are looks, money, and status, how they fit into this equation, how game fits into this equation. I want to piece it all together so you'll have a true, robust understanding. But understand this, while game is absolutely truth and it absolutely works, it is, to a certain extent, a subversive truth. Things work more smoothly for a lot of people if you are pursuing a nicer car, a better job, if you're following the rules that the quote-unquote socially high-status person is the only one allowed to talk to certain girls. All of those things do help a lot of people live their lives more smoothly, but they're just fundamentally not true. So without further ado, this video is the truth. So let's start off with the idea I see in my comments all the time, this idea of what is attractive women. They say it's all LMS, looks, money, status. Here's the first lie. Looks, money, status is not one thing. It's three different things. It's possible to have one or the other of these without all three. You can have looks with no money and no status. If you are an attractive, aspiring male model that's never been booked on anything and is unemployed, you have looks, you have no money, no status. If you work in front of a computer all day and because of that you've let your diet go and you're overweight and you're badly dressed, you may have a lot of money from whatever you did in front of that computer. Nobody knows about it. You don't look good. You have money with no looks and no status. Status we'll actually come back to, because status is actually not a single thing. Status is actually an additive of a lot of different things, a lot of different factors. It's not one discrete thing. And that's actually one of the biggest points of this video is what is status. So we'll get there. But the point is, you can have looks with no status and no money. You can have money with no looks and no status. They are not the same thing. So we're going to break them down individually. So let's first talk about looks. Do looks matter when it comes to attractiveness with women? Yes, they do. Obviously, they do. And they matter actually more now than they probably did 10 years ago, because online dating is a much more prevalent form of dating. But a lot of guys are wrong about how much they matter and in what way they matter. Here's what looks will do. Looks will give you a brief moment of attention. They'll give you a match online, but if you then text a bunch of lame stuff, you will ruin whatever attraction you had. They'll get you 20 seconds of attention in a live interaction, but again, if you say like lame things, or if you come off uncool or nervous or unattractive in other ways, you will lose that window of attention very, very quickly. So it is nice to have appearance in your favor because it will bind that window. But here's the other thing about appearance. Because it's mostly about attention, it's not just about sex appeal, okay? If you are well-dressed and seem stylish and successful, that will get you attention just as much as a chiseled jawline will. Because again, it's just about the girl seeing you in that first 20 seconds and thinking, is this the type of person that I'm willing to talk to? Is this the type of person I'm willing to engage some mental energy on to see if I want to get to know them better? And there's various different methods or various different factors that can give you a yes on that. So a chiseled jawline or a six-pack is one of those. Being well-dressed is another. Seeming to have your shit together in general is another. And actually, it all does come together. Because if you seem physically attractive, but you're dressed like a bum, you may still get overlooked. Again, am I saying looks don't matter? No, I'm not saying that. Am I saying you should work on your looks? I'm not saying that. If you watch any of my videos, I say dress well, get in the gym, because that 20 seconds of attention or that match online is worth a lot. It is worth a lot, but it's not the whole deal. And if you don't follow it up with the right stuff, it will become meaningless very quickly. And I've seen this with students as well. I have many students on my programs that are better looking than me, but then the girls all seem to like me more, right? Looks help. They're not the whole deal, and looks only get you past step 1. You still have to have step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to get actual success. And I'm sure I'll get plenty of comments from the internet about this one, but I do get students on my program who are unattractive and get results all the time. It can be done if you get your style right and get your game right. Believe it, don't believe it, that's up to you, but it's a fact. So let's talk about money. And here's what I'm very familiar with, because I get tons of students coming on my programs who have money and are having trouble with girls. In fact, that's a huge demographic of what I get on a bootcamp program. Here's the thing about money. Does money help you with women? Yes, but not until they already like you. If you lead with money, it's incredibly lame. Imagine if you were to walk up to a girl and be like, "Hi, what's up? My name's Todd, and by the way, I'm rich." Loser, right? Immediately, you're self-qualifying. You're trying too hard. You come off very, very lame. You cannot lead with money. If the girl finds out you have it by accident, it can be attractive quality. And if after the girl already likes you and is already sexually attracted to you, she finds out that you also are financially stable or even rich, that's going to make it easier to have a relationship with her. It does help on the back end for sure, but up front, it's very, very hard to lead with, and I see so many guys go wrong by trying to lead with it and actually come off as lame and unattractive rather than attractive at all. A couple other things about money. Number one, a lot of guys have it. If you look around a high-end nightclub and look at all the bottle service tables, there are plenty of guys with money, flashing money, spending money. Most of them still go home alone. That's number one. Number two, money and resources are far less relevant than they used to be. Because for a lot of human history, we're at a subsistence level, and it was actually starve or not. Now, even a very average salaried man has plenty of resources to take care of a woman and take care of a family. And on top of that, women make a lot more money themselves than they ever did before. So while money and resources still do matter somewhat, and they're still nice to have, everybody, or basically everybody nowadays, is at a level that they're living like kings compared to our evolutionary past. That said, almost everybody has enough money to be attractive to a woman nowadays. Now you might ask me, what about all these guys with Lamborghinis and girls that are certainly attracted to them and certainly into them? Because yeah, girls do go for hot cars. The girls do notice the hot cars, right? Well, here's the thing about that. If you use your money to buy essentially a status symbol, right? Like a flashy car or something like that, well, what you're essentially doing is you're turning your money into a form of appearance, right? And so the girl is responding to you, the guy with the Lambo, very similar to how she responds to the guy with the six-pack. And we're right back to looks. So it's going to get her attention, and it's going to buy you a little bit of time. However, if you follow it up with being very lame, and again, it's step one, if you can't do steps 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the courtship process, you could call it, if you can't do those things, you're going to fall flat on your face very, very quickly. But it does get you attention. And if you do have enough money, it may even be a smart thing to do to get that initial burst of attention, because now you're being treated the way an attractive guy would. But again, it's not the whole puzzle. It's just the start. So let's hypothetically say you had both looks and money, but then you don't have any game to back it up. You don't have any substance behind it on a personal level. What will you get? You might get a lot of attention and no dates, or you might get a lot of dates where you end up walking home alone at the end of the night. But you're going to, again, have trouble actually getting to the finish line, whether that is sex or relationship or whatever it is you're looking for. Okay, so far we've said looks by itself isn't enough. It matters, it helps, but it's by itself not enough. Money is by itself not enough. It helps, but it's not enough. What about status? Is status by itself enough? Probably yes. Status is pretty huge. Status is a big thing in game. And looks can contribute to status, money can contribute to status, but they're not the whole package. So let's talk about what status actually is, because most of us have a feeling of status. We kind of know intuitively what it is, but we haven't actually defined it. I went and looked it up because I had that same thing of the intuitive feeling of it, but no definition. And what it really is the relative standing between two people. It's relative standing between two people. It literally is, in a direct comparison, who's better. That's what status is. And of course, you can have status along a number of lines. So if you and I were to go play a tournament in a particular sport, whoever wins that tournament within the context of that tournament has status because they were better at that thing. That said, the other person could be more successful in life, and in a different context, they could have status. They could have that relative standing advantage. But that's what status is. Status is a difference in relative standing between two people. And so, looks can be a comparative factor for relative status. One person can be better looking than another. Wealth can be a comparative factor, right? One person can be wealthier than another. But they're not the only ones, and they're not even the most important ones. One of the most important status metrics is actually an attraction trigger we talk about game all the time, and that is social proof, popularity, having people like you, influence, right? That is a huge metric on which your status is being determined. And actually, that's something that we work on directly in game, and a whole lot of game is designed around that, right? So do girls react to a man appearing more popular? Yes, they absolutely do. Okay, so now that we've defined status as the relative standing between two people, how do women determine a man who has or does not have status? One of the best indicators is what we call social proof, right? Social proof is how are other people responding to you? And actually, social proof is something we utilize a lot in game, right? How are people responding to you? If you appear to be popular among women in general, a girl's going to assume you're pre-approved of by them, and therefore you are an attractive person. You are a potentially good mate. If you seem to have the esteem and respect of other people, the girl's going to assume that you are competent. And, going back to evolution, you would have been someone who could provide good genes and help her throughout her life with that very competence, right? So social proof, or the way that others are responding to you, how you seem to be in the eyes of others, is actually a huge symbol of status and massively attractive to women. And this actually brings us back to how do looks and money influence status. If you are attractive and that leads you to get good responses from other people, which you will slightly on a higher percentage basis by being attractive, then you may seem to have a lot of status and women will perceive you as attractive. If you have a lot of money, well, now instead of you having to do everything for yourself, you may have other people doing things for you, for example, and that makes you appear to be in a higher position relative to them. You appear to have status. Things seem to go your way. People seem to do things for you. People seem to be reactive and responsive to you. Therefore, it appears they're going to have status. Therefore, it is attractive. So even to the extent that looks and money are creating attraction, usually they're doing it through the conduit of status rather than doing it directly. So that's the point I want to make to you. It's not looks, money, status. It is status. Looks and money are factors that can contribute to status, but in the end of the day, it is status. And you know what else deals with status very directly and very well? Game. Almost every single thing you see in game deals with status, right? And again, what is status? It's the relative standing between two people. So if I disqualify you, right, I say, I'm not so sure if I like you, I'm putting myself in a position of relative status higher than you. If I'm too nice to you and I kiss your ass and I'm clearly trying to get favor from you, I'm putting you on a pedestal and putting you in a position of higher status relative to me. If when you give me a hard time, I get nervous and flustered, I'm putting you in a position of relative status higher than mine. If when you give me shit, I don't seem to care, I laugh it off and I just own you because I'm mentally there and sort of cool enough in the moment, unaffected enough in the moments to pull that off, now my status seems higher than yours. So what did I just talk about there? I essentially talked about supplication, disqualifiers, shit tests, right? These are all huge topics in game. And most of the things you think of as gaming moves, what are they? They are status adjusters, right? They are ways of demonstrating status, adjusting status, conveying status. That is what game basically is. And here's the funny thing about if you have looks or money or whatever other things may be pieces of status. Your status in the girl's eyes is only what she can see. Here's what I mean. If you are wealthy, but you're dressed in shitty clothes and she has no way of knowing you're wealthy, you're gaining no value from that. If you are good looking, but you're wearing baggy clothes that don't show off your good physique, you're gaining no value from that. The girl can only respond to what she sees. And what is game? Game is conveying the elements of status in an efficient way, right? So whatever elements of status, whatever good resume items you have are only as good in the girl's eyes as she can see. She can't respond to what she can't witness. That's what game is. Game is making status tangible to the girl and possibly generating status uniquely in the interaction. Here's what I mean by generating status uniquely in the interaction. There are basically two forms of value I talk about in game. One is absolute value, the other is relative value. Absolute value is a lot of the value that you think of as resume or looks, money, status type of stuff. It's how much money do you make, how cool is your job, how nice of a place do you live in, right? And of course, if you can convey those elements to girls in an attractive way, they make you seem more attractive. It's nice to have them. There are other elements which are relative value. And that is what exists in the direct interaction of you and the girl. So let's take this for example. Let's say there's a celebrity and a girl is attracted to him because he's a celebrity. But then as soon as the girl starts interacting with him, he starts acting, putting her on a pedestal, supplicating to her, acting lame. So now in an absolute value term, he has higher absolute value than her. But in their interaction, he's conveying a lower relative value. She will start to disdain him. She'll start to think of him as lower value. She'll start to become unattracted to him. On the other hand, imagine a situation where maybe a girl has a lot of resume items, but she's around some guy who maybe doesn't have the social status, but he's kind of maybe an irreverent guy, kind of doesn't take shit from people. And in their interaction, he's giving her shit. He doesn't seem to care much about her. And she starts reacting more to him. And all of a sudden, she starts getting attracted to him. And this is why a lot of times girls go for the bad boy that doesn't necessarily have the resume, or the guy that their parents disapprove of, that sort of thing. And so the guy may not have an advantage in terms of absolute value, but he has a huge advantage in terms of relative value. Within their interaction, he's the one with value, even if to everyone else in the outside world, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why you get these, oh, I can't see why she's with him. I don't know what she sees in him, that kind of stuff. It's because within the interaction, he has value, even if in an absolute sense, he doesn't, right? So what does game do? How does game work? Well, number one, to whatever extent you have absolute value on your side, it allows you to convey it. It allows you to actually show it to the girl in ways that are not reducing your value elsewhere. But then beyond that, there's that relative value in the interaction. There's the fact that moment to moment, the way you interact with the girl is saying who is of value. That is what game is. And in the long run, that interaction, like the longer a relationship goes, the more of your value is determined by the direct evidence of that interaction and not by extrinsic things in the real world. So in the long run, the way you're going to be viewed has more to do with your game, your actual one-to-one interaction with the girl, than with whatever indicators she might have had about you going in. And by the way, since I'm talking about game is not something that I made up, right? Game is not something that came around on the internet in year 2000 and the ideas have been shared since then and whatever. Game is something that's existed throughout all of human history. What is game? Game is essentially emulating the behaviors of high-status guys, right? High-status guys don't care as much about how other people perceive them because they don't have to. High-status guys take the lead. High-status guys have people reacting to them. Game simulates that. Game puts you in the headspace and the action space, so to speak, of a high-value guy so that you, in effect, grow into being that high-value guy. That's kind of how game works. And actually, side point on that, what I get a lot of on my live programs, and I get guys who have done all the absolute value steps. They've gone to the gym to get themselves in shape. They've bought the nice clothes to make themselves their best appearance. I even had guys get plastic surgery before a program, right? And then you also have guys who have made the money, they're successful, their resume, like their business card has a great title on it, right? They have all those resume items, but they somehow still struggle with girls. And oftentimes it's because in their mind, they're still that same lower status person that they were before they did all those things, and they're still acting that way. They're still putting the girl on a pedestal. They're still acting in a low relative value way, and so they don't get the results that they should on paper with what they've done to enhance their lives. Thankfully, usually I can help these guys out and get them those results, but that's what's going on, right? They have the status in fact, but they don't have the status in conveyance. They don't have the game to back up the status they've technically earned. So let's summarize this whole LMS thing. Well, it's not really LMS when it comes to attracting women. It's S, right? L and M, looks and money, are just means to an end, which is status. So if your appearance gets you some attention and conveys, that you might have some status, that's good, but it's the status that's getting you there. The money doesn't really help unless you use it to buy status symbols and get attention, or if she finds out later on and it becomes a convenience thing. But that's not about attraction, that's about convenience and lifestyle, right? So in the end, it is status that's making the difference. And that's where game comes in. Game is what? It's how you convey the status you have, and it's how you create status within the interaction. And that's why game is so valuable. And going all the way back, why doesn't the world want you to know this? Well, a lot of industries benefit from having you try to get better jobs and buy nicer things, right? And society is very orderly when everyone's pursuing the same goals. When the guys who are supposed to get the girls or who deserve the girls are the ones who get them, things seem orderly and nice. But when some guys have game and others don't, now all of a sudden the guys with game are getting the girls they don't deserve. That can kind of mess with the social order. That's why, to a certain extent, game is considered a bit subversive, right? It's a truth. It absolutely works. It's based in evolution. It's based in emulating what has worked for centuries. Absolutely true. but it's an inconvenient truth for certain people. Aside from status symbols, which make you appear attractive through your lifestyle, money actually can be used for status one other way, which is very critical, which is money buys you access. Money can get you into the best club where you will be perceived to have status. Or money can get you in association with other people that have status, and therefore you can kind of receive the benefits of their vicarious status. You can receive the benefits of they have people who they influence, you know them, and so now you have influence over those people, all right? So money can get you access. And there's actually another really good use of money to get you status. But again, the attractiveness is coming from status, not directly from the money itself.